The avoidant is experiencing profound regret after losing you. This regret is real, intense, and consuming. They lie awake replaying moments they took for granted. They see your face in crowds and feel physical pain. They compare every new person to you and find them lacking. They think about texting you constantly but stop themselves. They scroll through old photos, torturing themselves with what they had. They tell close friends they made the biggest mistake of their life. They genuinely wish they could go back and do everything differently. The regret is eating them alive. But here's what you need to understand with absolute clarity. Regret without action is just another avoidant pattern. It's feeling without doing. It's awareness without change. It's suffering without growth. And most critically, their regret does not create any obligation for you. What regret actually reveals about avoidance. Regret proves they can feel deeply. It proves they're capable of recognizing what they lost. It proves they understand their patterns damage something valuable. These are real realizations that many avoidants struggle to reach. So yes, their regret is genuine emotional experience worthy of acknowledgement. But regret alone reveals limitations, not growth. It reveals they can identify what went wrong after it's over, but couldn't identify it in time to prevent loss. It reveals they can feel pain about consequences, but that pain isn't motivating the therapeutic work that would prevent future similar losses. It reveals they can recognize your value in hindsight, but couldn't honor that value through their choices while you were present. The regret operates at safe distance. They can feel devastated about losing you while you're gone, because your absence makes the feeling safe to experience. When you were present, your availability triggered their deactivation. Your needs felt overwhelming. Your presence activated defenses. But now you're gone, and suddenly they can access all the feelings their defenses suppressed while you were there. The unavailability trap we've discussed operates here too. They feel most intensely when having you is impossible. This distance-enabled regret is fundamentally different from the present moment valuing that actual partnership requires. Relationship needs someone who can feel and express care while you're there, not just after you're gone. Partnership needs someone who acts on their feelings to protect what matters, not someone who only recognizes what mattered after loss is permanent. Their regret also often focuses on what they lost rather than on harm they caused. They regret losing your understanding, your patience, your presence, your functions. This is self-focused regret about their loss, not other-focused accountability about your pain. Real growth would center your experience. I hurt someone who didn't deserve it. Instead, their regret often centers their experience. I lost something valuable. The distinction matters enormously. Self-focused regret can coexist with unchanged patterns because it doesn't require examining how their behavior harmed you. It just requires feeling bad about what they no longer have access to. Other-focused accountability requires facing the pain they inflicted, which is much more uncomfortable, and which genuine change requires confronting. Regret without therapy is just emotional suffering that changes nothing. The avoidant may spend months or years in this regretful state. They truly suffer. They genuinely feel terrible about what happened. They deeply wish things were different. They authentically recognize they messed up. All of this emotional experience is real, and none of it constitutes change. Change requires action, specific action, sustained action over years. Change requires them engaging trauma-informed therapy, specifically addressing attachment patterns. It requires weekly sessions with qualified therapists. It requires vulnerable examination of childhood wounds. It requires practicing new relational behaviors in therapeutic context. It requires building emotional regulation skills they currently lack. It requires years of uncomfortable internal work restructuring defensive patterns. Regret without this therapeutic action is just suffering. It's them sitting in emotional pain without addressing the root cause of that pain. It's like having infection and feeling terrible about the infection, but refusing to take antibiotics. The suffering is real, but it's not healing. The pain is genuine, but it's not productive. The regret is intense, but it's not transformative. Most avoidants experiencing regret do not get therapy. They feel bad. They wish things were different. They maybe read some articles about attachment. They perhaps promise themselves they'll do better next time, but they don't actually engage the sustained professional therapeutic work that restructuring defensive patterns requires. Why? Because defended resistance to vulnerability exceeds the discomfort of regret. Therapy means facing wounds they've avoided their entire lives. It means sitting with pain they've built elaborate defenses to escape. It means being vulnerable with a therapist, which their attachment wounds make terrifying. It means years of uncomfortable work with no guarantee of outcome. Regret hurts, but therapy terrifies, so they choose regret. This choice means patterns continue unchanged. They feel terrible about losing you, and they'll feel terrible about losing the next person when their unchanged patterns create the same outcome. And the next person. And the next. Because regret without therapeutic action just becomes recurring emotional experience they have after each relationship ends, due to patterns they refuse to address. You cannot determine whether they're changing by their expressed regret. You determine change through evidence. Are they in therapy? Can they name their therapist? Can they describe what they're working on? Have they been going consistently for months? Do they have demonstrated behavioral changes maintained across time? No therapist, no sustained attendance, no demonstrated changes? Then regret is just feeling without growth. Their regret often includes wanting you back, without having earned the right to return. The regret typically includes desire for reconciliation. They want you back. They miss you intensely. They think about reaching out constantly. They fantasize about you giving them another chance. They imagine how different it would be if you returned. They desperately want to restore what they lost. But wanting you back without doing the work is just wanting to restore a comfortable position. It's wanting access to your understanding again, wanting your regulatory presence, wanting the functions you provided, wanting relationship benefits without having addressed the patterns that made relationship unsustainable. Real change would look different. Real change would mean they do therapeutic work, whether or not you return. They'd get therapy for themselves, to address their wounds, to prevent hurting future partners, to become healthy human regardless of relationship outcome with you. They do the work because they recognize they have problem requiring professional help, not because they want to win you back. But most avoidants experiencing regret are focused on restoration, not transformation. They want another chance. They want your forgiveness. They want to try again. And notably, they want these things without having done the years of therapeutic work that would make trying again viable. This is manipulation, whether conscious or unconscious. It's attempting to restore access through expressed regret without earning access through demonstrated change. It's using emotional suffering, their pain about losing you, to generate your compassion that might override your boundaries. It's hoping you'll respond to their regret by giving them opportunity to repeat patterns with you again. Some directly communicate this desire. They reach out sharing their regret, explaining how much they miss you, describing their suffering. The implicit or explicit message is, I feel terrible, therefore you should give me another chance. But feeling terrible doesn't equal capacity for different relational experience. Regret doesn't mean they won't repeat patterns. Suffering doesn't indicate they've built new skills. Others communicate through third parties. They tell mutual friends about their regret. Friends then come to you. They really regret what happened. They're really suffering. Maybe you could talk to them? This creates pressure on you to respond to their pain by breaking your boundaries. It positions you as cruel for maintaining protection while they suffer. It attempts to use social pressure to overcome your legitimate self-protection. Both approaches share same fundamental problem. They want reconciliation without having earned it through years of therapeutic work and demonstrated behavioral change. They want your forgiveness as gift they receive, rather than as something they earn through transformation. They want you to take the risk of re-engaging based on their emotional state, rather than based on evidence of changed capacity. You don't owe them this. Their regret, however genuine, doesn't create obligation. Their suffering, however real, doesn't require your response. Their desire for another chance, however intense, doesn't mean you should provide one. Reconciliation after avoidant patterns requires evidence, years of therapy, sustained behavioral changes, demonstrated capacity maintained across time. Anything less is just hoping you'll accept words and feelings as substitute for the actual work. The regret might be permanent, and that's their consequence to carry, not yours to alleviate. Some avoidants will carry this regret for years, possibly forever. They'll never fully get over losing you. You'll be the one that got away, the person they think about when they're alone, the relationship they wish they could have back, the biggest mistake they ever made. This permanent regret is real possibility, and it's still not your problem to solve. Their permanent regret is the consequence of their choices. They chose patterns over partnership repeatedly. They chose defended comfort over doing therapeutic work. They chose their limitations over your needs. They chose to take you for granted until you had no choice but to protect yourself. These were their choices. Regret is the consequence. And consequences, even painful permanent ones, belong to the person who made the choices. You are not responsible for alleviating their regret by returning. You're not obligated to sacrifice yourself again so they feel better about their loss. You don't owe them relief from consequences they earned through sustained pattern of choices, prioritizing everything over the relationship work that would have prevented this outcome. Their regret might intensify over time. They might realize years later that no one else compared to you, that your combination of understanding, patience, and care was irreplaceable, that they lost the best partner they ever had or likely ever will have. This deepening regret might make them reach out even years later. Same principle applies. Regret doesn't equal change. Time passing doesn't mean patterns addressed. Their suffering doesn't create your obligation. Some people struggle with knowing the avoidant carries permanent regret. It feels cruel. It feels like you have power to alleviate their suffering by giving them another chance. Your compassionate nature rebels against letting someone suffer when you could potentially help. But returning to alleviate their regret isn't help. It's enabling. It's teaching them that regret without therapeutic work is sufficient to restore relationship. It's showing them they can lose you, suffer, wait, and eventually get you back without doing the actual change work. It's sacrificing your well-being and your peace to make them feel better about consequences they created. Real compassion looks like maintaining boundaries. It looks like allowing them to carry the weight of their choices. It looks like letting consequences be consequences. Because that weight might eventually become heavy enough to motivate the therapeutic work that your rescue would prevent. Or it might not. They might carry regret forever without changing. Either way, that's their path to walk. Not yours to alter by sacrificing yourself to ease their pain. Your role is to honor your own boundaries, not to rescue them from their regret. You might know they're suffering. You might see evidence of their regret through social media, through mutual friends, through their attempts to communicate. You might feel guilt about their pain. You might wonder if you're being too harsh, maintaining no contact while they clearly regret what happened. These feelings are normal, but they don't change what's true. You are not responsible for managing their regret. You're not obligated to break boundaries that protect you because they're suffering from consequences. Your job is not to rescue adults from their own choices. Your role is simple. Honor your own boundaries. Maintain the protection you established. Continue building your life without them. Keep redirecting energy toward your own healing and growth rather than toward their emotional state. Honoring boundaries means not responding to breadcrumbs testing your accessibility. It means not breaking no contact because you learned they're struggling. It means not attending events where you know they'll be just because enough time has passed. It means maintaining the separation that your well-being requires regardless of their regret level. It also means managing your own feelings about their regret. You might feel satisfaction that they finally recognize what they lost. You might feel sadness that recognition came too late. You might feel anger that they couldn't value you while you were present. You might feel guilt about their suffering. All valid feelings to process, ideally with your own therapist, while maintaining boundaries. Remember, they had every opportunity to prevent this regret. You expressed needs clearly. You established boundaries repeatedly. You gave chances. You communicated. You stayed far longer than most people would have. They had years to do therapeutic work. to address patterns, to honor your patients by getting help. They chose not to. This regret is a result of their sustained choices, not your cruelty, not your lack of compassion. Their choices. You get to protect yourself from those choices' impact. You get to maintain boundaries that keep you safe from patterns they haven't addressed through therapy. You get to build life without them. You get to choose partners who already have capacity, not partners who only recognize your value after losing you. These are your rights. Their regret doesn't negate these rights. They're learning the hard truth. Understanding what you lost doesn't mean you can get it back. This is perhaps the most devastating aspect of their regret. They finally understand what you meant to them. They recognize your irreplaceable qualities. They see clearly what they took for granted. They comprehend the magnitude of their loss. They get it now. And getting it now doesn't mean they get you back. This is hard truth that regret teaches. Understanding comes too late sometimes. Recognition after loss is permanent, doesn't reverse the loss. Clarity in hindsight doesn't create second chances. You can fully comprehend what you destroyed and still have to live with the destruction. They're learning that some losses are final, that some people don't come back, that some chances, once squandered, don't reappear, that exceptional partners who tolerate extensive patterns eventually reach limits. And once those limits are reached, the ending is permanent, regardless of subsequent regret. This finality is what makes their regret so painful. If they could get you back, regret would be temporary discomfort before restoration. But they can't get you back. You've moved on. You've healed. You've built life without them. You've maybe found someone who already possesses capacity they lacked. Or you've discovered you prefer being alone to being in relationship requiring your sacrifice. Either way, the door is closed, and their regret can't open it. They might try anyway. They might reach out hoping you've softened. They might make grand gestures thinking romance will overcome your boundaries. They might promise change hoping promises are sufficient. They might express regret hoping suffering moves you to give another chance. None of it works because you know the truth. Regret isn't change. Understanding isn't growth. Promising isn't doing. And you're not willing to sacrifice yourself again for someone who only valued you after loss, forced recognition. The permanent nature of loss, despite full recognition, is their lesson to learn. It teaches that you can't wait until loss to value people. You can't take exceptional partners for granted, assuming they'll tolerate patterns indefinitely. You can't refuse therapeutic work expecting patient partner will wait forever. You can't choose patterns over people and expect people to remain available after the choosing. These are brutal lessons, but they're accurate lessons about how relationships actually work. Avoidant patterns cost relationships. Refusing therapy while patterns harm partner costs the partner. Taking people for granted costs those people. The cost isn't always paid immediately. Patient partners like you tolerate extensively before leaving. But eventually, cost comes due. And when it does, regret doesn't refund what's lost. Their regret reveals what you already knew. You deserved better all along. The fact that they're destroyed by regret proves something you already knew but maybe doubted. You were exceptional partner. You were irreplaceable. You gave them something rare and valuable. You provided understanding, patience, accommodation that most people wouldn't provide. You were worth keeping. You deserve to be valued while present, not just recognized in absence. Their regret confirms your worth. It validates that you weren't asking too much. It proves your needs were legitimate, your boundaries appropriate, your decision to leave necessary. It demonstrates that the problem was their incapacity, not your excessive expectations. This confirmation matters because avoidants often gaslight partners into doubting themselves. They suggest you're too needy, too emotional, too demanding. You internalize these messages. You wonder if you expected too much, if you should have been more patient, if you were the problem. Their regret proves otherwise. If you were too needy, they wouldn't regret losing you. They'd be relieved. If you were too demanding, they wouldn't suffer about the loss. They'd feel freed. If you were the problem, they wouldn't desperately wish they could go back. They'd be happily moving forward. Their regret reveals you were exactly what they needed. You were the partner who could have supported their growth if they'd chosen growth. You were the person who understood them despite their defenses. You were the relationship that could have worked if they'd done their therapeutic work. You were everything right. They were the variable that made it unsustainable. This clarity allows you to fully release any remaining guilt or doubt. You did enough. You gave enough. You were enough. More than enough. You were exceptional. And exceptional you deserved partner who recognized your value while present, who honored your patience through therapeutic work, who reciprocated your understanding through building capacity. They couldn't be that partner, not because you were insufficient to inspire it, but because they refused the only path to developing it, sustained therapy, addressing defended patterns. That was their choice, their limitation, their responsibility, and now it's their regret to carry while you move forward toward partnership with someone who already knows how to value exceptional partner without loss being required to teach them what you were worth all along. What you do with their regret? Absolutely nothing. You might learn about their regret through various channels. They might tell you directly. Friends might inform you. You might see evidence through social media. You might sense it through their behavior. However you become aware, your response should be the same. Nothing. No response to their messages expressing regret. No acknowledgement of their suffering. No breaking of no contact to discuss their feelings. No softening of boundaries because they're in pain. No consideration of reconciliation because they finally understand. Nothing. This isn't cruelty. This is self-protection. This is honoring everything you learned through painful experience with them. This is maintaining boundaries that keep you safe. This is choosing yourself. Their regret is their emotional experience to manage, not your problem to solve, not your pain to alleviate, not your responsibility to respond to. They have options: therapy, friends, family, journaling, exercise, other healthy coping mechanisms. They don't need you. They want you. There's a difference. You doing nothing with their regret also protects them in a way they can't see. It maintains the consequences that might eventually motivate genuine change. Every time someone rescues them from regret by giving another chance without therapeutic work, they learn regret is sufficient. They learn suffering eventually gets people back. They learn they can avoid therapy and still restore relationships through expressed pain. You maintaining boundaries teaches different lesson. Regret without change means permanent loss. This lesson might be what finally motivates therapy. Or it might not. Either way, you're not responsible for their growth. You're responsible for your protection. And doing nothing with their regret accomplishes exactly that. So let them regret. Let them suffer. Let them carry the weight of losing you. Let them sit with consequences of their choices. Let them face that understanding what they lost doesn't reverse the loss. Let them learn the hard way that exceptional partners have limits. Let them experience that those limits, once exceeded, create permanent endings regardless of subsequent regret. And you move forward. You build your life. You protect your peace. You maintain standards. You choose partners who already value you. You never look back at someone who only saw your worth after losing you. You honor yourself by refusing to teach them that regret without therapeutic work is sufficient to restore what their patterns destroyed. Their regret is destroying them? That's consequence. Not your emergency. Not your problem. Not your responsibility. Just consequence they earned through every choice that prioritized defended comfort over doing the work that would have prevented this exact outcome. Let it destroy them. You're not their savior. You're not their second chance. You're not their hope for redemption. You're free. And staying free means doing absolutely nothing with the regret they feel about losing what they never appreciated until it was gone.